Welcome to the CEO Shift Show, helping specialized service business owners build a business that runs without them. I'm Carol Surbey, professionally trained business coach. I started in this industry back in 1995, and I have spent 30 years watching what breaks specialized service businesses from the inside and what actually holds them together. Today's episode is about team readiness, and I want to be absolutely direct with you from the top. When I say team readiness, I'm not talking about hiring better people. I'm talking about whether your business is actually set up to let the people you've already hired to be able to do their jobs. Because here's what I see constantly in restoration, hazmat, environmental testing, specialty cleaning businesses. Every specialized service trade that you can think of. The owner has a capable team. Good people who show up, who know their work, and who want to deliver. And the owner is still in the bottleneck. There's still the first call when something needs to move. There's still the person whose phone has to ring before the next step can happen. I want to point out here, the team isn't the problem. The information is still flowing through the owner. Today, I want to show you what it looks like when that changes. Because I have a client who figured this out, and the results in his business are hard to argue with. I always protect the name of my clients. So this one, I'm going to call him Calvin. So Calvin runs a restoration contracting company in Pennsylvania. He's been in the trades long enough to know every part of his operation. Estimating, project management, client relationships, fieldwork. He built his business the way most of you did, on expertise, on hustle, on one job at a time. And for a long time, that's what made him good. When I started working with him, he had a solid team. His project manager, Brian, had been around long enough to know the operation inside out. The field crew was experienced. And from the outside, it looked like the team could run all the jobs. But here's what was actually happening. So when a job sold, when a customer signed the contract and said yes, Brian didn't know about it until Calvin told him. The crew didn't know what was coming down the pipeline until Calvin put it on the board. Permits couldn't be pulled until Calvin gave the word. Procurement couldn't be started until Calvin confirmed the details. Every step Brian needed to take to get a job started had to go through Calvin first. Now, Calvin knew this, and when I asked him why the sold job update still ran through him, he said, old habits. I pushed back hard on that one. My question is, old habits for who? Old habits for you? What does that cost your team? He was quiet for a second, and then he said, well, it's not helping them, that's for sure. And that's the understatement of the year. Because here's what happens when the project manager can't move until the owner tells him the job is sold. Permits are delayed. Procurement is behind. The crew shows up to a job that isn't ready. And Brian, who is honestly more than capable of managing that entire setup, is standing there waiting. Not because he doesn't know how, because the trigger that starts his work lives in Calvin's head. Meanwhile, Calvin is on the road. He's out generating sales. He was in a motel room in Pennsylvania when we talked, doing only what he can do. He was also the reason his own operation was running behind. That's how the bottleneck builds. Not from bad hiring, from building a business where every critical piece of information passes through the owner before it reaches the people who need it. So here's my verdict on the team readiness, and I would like for you to hear this very clearly. A team cannot be ready for a business that isn't built to let them work. In 30 years of working in and around specialized service trades, I have seen this exact pattern more times than I can count. The owner hires, the owner trains, the owner trusts, and then the owner stays, and then the owner keeps themselves as the information source. Not deliberately, but because no one ever built a system to move the information around them. But as CEO, it now becomes your responsibility to move yourself out of the center. I always call it, you're like the center of the donut. You're the center of the life preserver. You are the hub. And as long as you're there, your team can't move, your supervisors can't move. Hell, even your sales growth can't move. So again, this was done deliberately when you first started your business, but your business gets to a point where you also need to deliberately move yourself out of that position. Move yourself out from the system where the information revolves around you. Because when you don't do that, the owner looks at the results, the delays, the check-ins, the calls, and assume it's a people problem. My team needs too much hand-holding. I can't find anyone who takes initiative. Your team can't take initiative on information that they don't have. Brian couldn't confirm permits were in process because he didn't know the job had been sold. The crew couldn't prep because Brian couldn't plan. And nobody called Calvin on it. Because in most specialized service businesses, you don't call the owner to say that the system is broken. You just wait. So where is it in your business that your team's waiting on you? I want you to understand that your team readiness requires a business built to move information to the right people without routing it through the owner first. The team does the work. The system does the handoff. That's the shift. What would I have done? If I had walked into Calvin's business on day one, the first thing I would have asked is, where does information have to go? And who does it currently flow through to get there? I want to be clear here. Not tasks, but handoffs. The moment where work cannot continue because information hasn't moved yet. For Calvin, the clearest one was the sold project handoff. Contract signed, job needs to go on the board. Brian needs to know, permits to be initiated, and every one of those pre-construction steps was waiting on Calvin to make a phone call, to send a text, or just remember to log in. So we mapped it. I know that probably 35% of you are doing this to that degree. Another 55% of you are doing it to a lesser degree. So how do we fix it? Well, we map it out. When a customer accepts a project, that event is already captured in the accounting software. The accountant sees it. She creates a job in the field management system. Brian gets the notification automatically. Not from Calvin, from the system. And that notification starts the chain of events. Anytime anybody in your company gets a notification from the system that this job is now live, they should have a task list of items that need to be done from the pre-construction point of view in order to allow that job to be successful from the moment we start mobilization. It might be planning a handoff meeting. It might be making sure contracts are in place. It's who's following up on the permit process. And if you're utilizing subcontractors, who's approving the subcontractors, who's sending out those contracts and following them and making sure that we're getting signed contracts returned without changes. Okay. When Calvin's not in that chain, when you're not in that chain, he doesn't need to follow up. When I pointed that out to Calvin, the process he just described didn't include him at all. He said, correct. One word. And I could actually hear the relief in it. Now, the Monday meeting doesn't start with Calvin downloading the information to Brian. It starts with Brian reporting to Calvin. How many jobs sold last week? Where the permits stand? What procurement has been initiated? What handoff meetings have been done? The information is already in the system. Brian's job is to now work it. Next, we ran through what else still ran through Calvin. Estimate follow-ups, moving to admin. Pre-construction checklists, moving to Brian. The pattern was the same every time. The question was never, does this person know how to do it? They knew. The question was, have we built the trigger that tells them when to start? So when it comes to building the trigger, remove yourself from the handoff. When your team stops chasing you and starts chasing the board, that's the moment. That's what it looks like when your business starts to run without you. Not a better hire, not a longer onboarding process. A system that moves information around you instead of through you. When Calvin and I started working together, his business was at 1.8 million in revenue. When we talked most recently, he was targeting 4.2 million. He was doing that from a motel room in Pennsylvania. He was on the road. He was closing sales. He was being the CEO of a company that was running without him on the job sites. Brian contacts him once in the morning and once at night. And these are just check-ins. They're not emergencies. And usually it's Calvin reaching out to Brian just to close the loop. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. The crew told Calvin, we don't have to chase you anymore. We know what's coming up. We know what's on the board. And that's the process, that's the sentence that you're working towards. So here's your challenge for this month. Identify one handoff. It still runs through you. Not all of them, one. A place where your team cannot take the next step until you've confirmed something, you've passed something along, or you told someone else the job is a go. And ask yourself 3 questions. Who needs this information? What triggers the handoff? And what would it take to remove me from it? Don't build the whole system this week. Build one handoff that doesn't require you. Test it. See what Brian does with it. Because Calvin didn't fix everything at once. He fixed the sold job notification. That freed up Brian to manage the project startup. And it just continued to compound from there. Your team is ready. The question is whether your business is built to let them work. I'm Carol Surbey. If this episode landed, share it with a business owner who's still the first call their team makes every single morning. And if you're ready to map exactly where the business is stuck, where the information is stuck in your business, book a free discovery call at carolsurbey.com. 30 minutes, you'll leave with a clear picture of what your business needs to run without you.